Every bite you eat begins changing the environment your brain works in, within minutes. Not metaphorically. Not eventually. Right now, as you're watching this, your brain is quietly deciding how well it's going to work today, based on what you had for breakfast. If you've ever struggled to focus in class, forgotten why you walked into a room, or felt mentally wiped out after lunch, nutrition may be one piece of that puzzle. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's happening inside your skull every time you eat, and the small changes that actually make a measurable difference. Let's get into it. Here's a number that sounds fake but isn't. Your brain is about 2% of your body weight. But it burns roughly 20% of your total energy, just sitting there, doing nothing but keeping you. Imagine your body is an apartment building. The brain is one tenant, in one unit, but that one unit is running enough equipment to light up a fifth of the entire building's power grid, 24/7, even while everyone else is asleep. In toddlers, it's even more extreme. A 5-year-old's brain can eat up nearly half their entire energy budget. That's how expensive thinking, remembering, and feeling actually are, biologically. This is the foundation for everything that follows, because an organ this energy-hungry is extremely sensitive to fuel quality. And here's where things get really surprising. If your brain runs on glucose, on sugar, shouldn't more sugar just mean more brain power? Here's the catch. It's not about having sugar. It's about how steady the supply is. Think of blood sugar like the water pressure in your house. A steady flow keeps everything running smoothly. But chug a sugary drink and you create a flash flood, a spike, followed by a hard crash. Your brain functions best when glucose stays relatively stable, not on a roller coaster. Researchers who tracked people's blood sugar in real life, using the same continuous glucose monitors diabetics use, found something interesting. It wasn't the spike itself that hurt memory the most. It was something called insulin resistance. In plain terms, insulin resistance simply means your body cells stop responding to insulin as well as they should, so glucose doesn't get pulled into cells as efficiently. That's when working memory, basically your ability to hold and use information in your head for a few seconds, like remembering a phone number just long enough to dial it, takes the hit. Some researchers have gone as far as describing Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes, because insulin resistance appears to play a real role in the disease. One important caveat here. That's a research term some scientists use to describe a mechanism. It is not an official medical diagnosis. Your brain doesn't want a sugar rush. It wants a steady drip. Have you ever noticed that after a big sugary meal, you suddenly want to nap at your desk? Many people experience a drop in alertness after a large sugary meal, as blood glucose and insulin levels shift. Why this happens varies from person to person, but big swings in blood sugar are generally less favorable for steady focus than stable levels. So, going back to what I said at the start, some of these effects, like changes in blood glucose, can happen within minutes. Others, like changes in your gut bacteria or long-term brain health, develop over weeks, months, or even years. Both timescales matter, and we're about to cover both. Here's maybe the wildest part of this whole video, and it explains why food affects how you feel, not just how you think. You've probably heard serotonin described as one of the brain's mood-related chemical messengers. It's an example of a neurotransmitter, which is just the scientific word for a chemical messenger that lets brain cells talk to each other. Here's the part most people don't know. Your brain can't make serotonin from nothing. Think of your brain like a factory that makes its own tools, but it has to import the raw materials from somewhere. That raw material is called tryptophan, one of the amino acids, which are basically the small building block molecules that make up protein. Your body only gets tryptophan from food, things like eggs, poultry, nuts, and seeds. The same goes for dopamine, a chemical messenger involved in motivation, learning, reward, and attention. Its building block is a different amino acid called tyrosine, which also comes from the protein you eat. In other words, your brain isn't just affected by food. Some of its actual chemical messengers are built, piece by piece, from what's on your plate. Think about that for a second. Your brain can't build some of its own chemical messengers unless you first provide the raw materials through food. That's incredible. Here's the part that sounds like science fiction but isn't. The bacteria living in your gut right now can influence the production of chemical messengers, including serotonin, and directly produce others, like GABA, a natural chemical messenger that helps calm the brain when it's overly active, and short-chain fatty acids, byproducts your gut bacteria make when they digest fiber, that all talk to your brain. And to be precise, most of the body's serotonin is actually made by cells lining your gut, not by the bacteria themselves, but those bacteria help stimulate that production and make their own signaling compounds too. Picture your gut as a chemical factory with a direct hotline to your brain's mood and memory control room. What you feed the factory changes what it sends up the line. Disruptions here, through poor diet, antibiotics, or chronic stress, are linked to anxiety, low mood, and cognitive fog. Fiber-rich foods feed the good bacteria, which produce those short-chain fatty acids that appear to calm inflammation and support brain function. The biology here is genuinely well established. What's still being worked out is exactly which foods, in what amounts, produce reliable, provable benefits for a specific person. This is one of the most active, but not fully settled, areas of nutrition science. Last piece of the internal puzzle, inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is like a slow-burning fire inside your body, and diets high in sugar and ultra-processed food keep adding fuel to it. If oxidative stress is like tiny amounts of rust slowly building up inside your cells, then antioxidants are compounds that help neutralize the unstable molecules that can damage cells. Foods rich in antioxidants, think berries, leafy greens, and olive oil, help support your body's own defense systems that slow that damage down. This kind of cellular damage has been linked to the same processes seen in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's research. It's not a guarantee of disease, but it's a mechanism scientists increasingly believe connects diet to long-term brain aging. Now here's where it gets a little uncomfortable, because this affects almost everyone's kitchen. Ultra-processed food isn't just junk food. It's anything industrially engineered with ingredients you wouldn't use in a home kitchen. Think packaged snacks, sodas, most breakfast cereals, reheat and eat meals. A major Harvard-led study followed over 5,000 older adults for nearly 9 years, in what scientists call a cohort study, meaning they tracked the same group of real people over time. People who ate the most ultra-processed food had a 58% higher risk of developing dementia compared to those who ate the least. Now, I have to be fair here. This is an association, not a lab-proven cause. People who eat more ultra-processed food often also differ in other ways: income, activity levels, other health conditions. Scientists try to control for these factors statistically, but they can't fully rule them out. Still, when the same pattern shows up across multiple huge studies in different countries, it's a signal worth taking seriously. Think of ultra-processed food like cheap fuel in an expensive engine. It might run for a while, but the wear adds up faster. Okay, so what does the evidence support? 2 dietary patterns keep showing up at the top: the Mediterranean diet and the Mind diet. The Mediterranean diet is based on the traditional eating patterns of countries like Greece, Italy, and Spain: lots of vegetables, fruit, fish, and olive oil, with less red meat and butter. Mind stands for Mediterranean-Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay, basically a diet designed specifically for brain health, combining the Mediterranean diet with another well-studied eating pattern called DASH, which was originally developed to lower blood pressure. One review found Mediterranean-style eating was linked to better memory and faster processing speed, basically how quickly your brain can take in information and react to it. In one specific analysis, researchers estimated that high adherence corresponded to cognitive performance similar to someone several years younger. But that's one estimate from one analysis, not a universal law of nutrition. The MIND diet is promising too. Protective associations with dementia risk showed up in most of the cohort studies reviewed. But I want to be precise here, most of this evidence comes from observing people's existing eating habits over time, not from strict lab experiments where people are randomly assigned diets. So it's strongly associated with lower risk, not yet scientifically proven to prevent it. Notice something interesting? None of these diets revolve around one magical food. They all follow the same underlying pattern: more plants, more whole foods, more healthy fats, less ultra-processed food. Different names. Same idea. Why might these diets help? Researchers think it's because they combine several brain-supporting features at once: more fiber to feed the gut bacteria we just talked about, healthier fats, plenty of vitamins and minerals, and fewer ultra-processed foods. It's not one magic ingredient, it's the whole pattern working together. So what does that actually look like on a plate? Mostly vegetables, fruit, and legumes. Fish and olive oil instead of red meat and butter. Whole grains instead of refined ones. And the MIND diet adds one more detail worth remembering. It specifically calls out berries and leafy greens as standouts, foods that showed up again and again in the research linking diet to brain health. Quick myth check. Fish oil pills. You've probably heard they're a brain superfood. The truth is more complicated. Multiple clinical trials on omega-3 supplements for cognitive decline have found mixed results. Some show modest benefits for memory in specific groups, others show almost nothing. This is one of the few places in this video where I have to say the science isn't settled, and anyone promising guaranteed brain benefits from a supplement bottle is overselling it. So here's the honest, science-backed summary: no hype. Steady blood sugar beats sugar spikes, so pair carbs with protein or fiber. Cut back on ultra-processed foods where you can, since it's one of the strongest signals in the data. Lean toward Mediterranean and MIND-style eating: vegetables, fish, olive oil, whole grains, berries, and leafy greens, which has the best track record for long-term brain health. Feed your gut bacteria with fiber, fermented foods, and plants. And don't expect a supplement to do what a diet pattern does. Your brain is the most expensive organ you own, 20% of your energy, running 24/7, with 0 days off. What you feed it isn't a small decision. It's the decision.